Become a premium member on RealCatholicTV.com today. Not only will you learn about the one true faith, just think of all the new friends you'll make.
Hello everyone and welcome to The Vortex, where lies and falsehoods are trapped and exposed. I'm Michael Voris. Faithful Catholics have been so disappointed and let down so frequently by various leaders in the church that you can understand if there's some caution being exercised with regard to the whole Obama attack on the faith. True, leaders, bishops, and others have band together and raised a loud voice in protest this time, and that's all good, very good, but there's still sort of that nagging question in the back of the mind based on past experience. Are they going to go all the way and do whatever needs to be done to fight this attack, or will they cave in? But an even more pressing issue, much more pressing, is this going to be seen and seized on by the hierarchy in America as the golden moment, the chance to begin to restore what has been torn down for nearly 50 years now, the authentic faith. There's been so much pandering and cowardice and naivete with regard to the secular world that one wonders if the leaders truly understand the extent of the damage, the deep damage, some of it irrecoverable, done by decades of mismanagement. This mismanagement has produced a church bursting at the seams with what can aptly be termed camouflage Catholics, the lukewarm bunch who just go through the motions and are really pretty indifferent to the spiritual life. The term camouflage Catholics has been used, perhaps coined, by Bishop George Leo Thomas of Helena, Montana, in an interview he gave after his meeting with the Pope recently in Rome. He went on to say, quote, "My message, of course, over and over again is, no more camouflage Catholics in our diocese. Mediocrity, the lukewarm spirit, is an enemy of the church," end quote. It seems, and we can hope, that Bishop Thomas is one of a growing chorus of U.S. bishops from smaller, less headline-grabbing dioceses that are being more and more outspoken about the disaster that has befallen the church and the need to fix it. They seem to be finally concentrating on the reality that the church has been trampled under by the world, but that this has been facilitated by enemies within the church. Whether those enemies were willing accomplices or just ignorant, their actions and inactions have caused a spiritual reign of terror to descend on Holy Mother Church. But here's the difference. 20 years ago, virtually no one in the hierarchy was speaking in these terms. No one. To come out and use a term like camouflage Catholics would have been condemned in every diocese of the country. No doubt it will still draw some fire from the modernist quarter of the church, but here's the point. There is now a traditional quarter. There is now a traditional quarter to fire back. It may be small still, and still somewhat finding its footing, but all the momentum is on this side, the side of tradition. There aren't blogs and websites and Facebook pages and Twitter accounts from progressive and modernist so-called Catholics popping up and denouncing the church's teaching. That already exists, unfortunately, in loads of chanceries and convents and so-called Catholic universities. The Catholic Revolution that is currently materializing is attacking that very bastille of the modernist camp in the church that currently is the status quo. The youth and the vigor is all in the traditional camp, and that's true whether the individuals are biologically young or not, although many of them are. Shout out to all of you. There simply cannot be any denying that a counter-reformation has begun in the church, and this time, unlike the 16th and 17th century counter-reformation fought against enemies outside the church, this one is being waged against enemies of the faith inside the church. Now, in truth, these modern-day enemies are really outside the church as well, outside of her heart and mind. But unlike the original Protestants, these ones are still inside the walls. That these kinds of discussions can even be had and recognized as true and acknowledged by the more brave among the clergy is a tremendous blessing and a sign that the tide has turned. But as many have said before, it takes a long time to turn an aircraft carrier around, but it has begun. It will eventually be impossible for camouflage Catholics to find anywhere to hide in the church. Many of them have been smoked out and unmasked in the pontificate of our current Holy Father. If there's one thing that Obama has unwittingly done, he has helped contribute to an atmosphere, to an environment where the lines between authentic and camouflage Catholics are now more stark than ever. It's much more clear. So when you see those Obama bumper stickers on fellow parishioners' cars in the parking lot on Sundays, you be sure and say something to them. When you hear heretical or heterodox nonsense spewing out of the RCI director's mouth at your local parish, you be sure and say something. If you see a camouflage Catholic, call them out, not to abuse them or embarrass them, but to remind them, or in some cases tell them for the first time, of the truth of the faith, the authentic truth. But you don't get to say nothing. You don't get to take a pass when you see an enemy of Christ lurking around the church. Let's have everyone stand up like a man and say what they really think and really believe and scrap the camo. It is, after all, the honest thing to do. God love you. I'm Michael Voris.